Hi, second grade. Welcome to your Read Aloud for the sixth week, the week of May 11th. This week I'm going to read to you from the Raggedy Ann and Andy Great Treasury book that I have. I have a think and share for you at the end of the story. Think about it, share it with somebody in your house. You can always leave it in the comments below. Type out a few sentences or a sentence and tell us what you're thinking or what your answer to the question might be. I do have a challenge for some students. And since we're reading a fantasy story this week, and the writing this week is a fictional story, is the main option, the main choice for this week, I thought about it, and if you have a really hard time coming up with a fictional story, I know some of my students do, and you spend some time thinking about it, and maybe you fill out the graphic organizer for writing this week, which is like a story element chart to make up a story, character, setting, problem, and solutions. And you spend some time thinking, and you just can't seem to pull a whole story together. I think it would be all right for you to use the basis of this story, maybe the problem and solution. Change around the characters, change around the setting, and make the story just a little bit different, but use part of this to help you when you write your fictional story if it's giving you a hard time and you can't seem to come up with a story of your own. So this week we're going to pull from Raggedy Ann and Andy's giant treasury book that I have. It's a collection of stories. There's 4 adventures plus 12 short stories in here. I wanted to go over some text features with you guys just to refresh your memories a little bit. Of course, in the very beginning of the book, we have can you read that? The title page has the title of the story, the author, the publisher who put it together, and this particular book, because it's a collection, it lists all of the story titles within this book. Let's see if you can figure this out. We have all the different sections of the book, all the titles of the book, the page numbers they're on. Oh, I kind of gave it away. Table of contents, that's in here. There's a nice little introduction that gives you a backstory on Raggedy Ann and Andy that I'd like to share with you. It says, Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy are 2 little rag dolls stuffed with nice cotton, with bright shoe button eyes and cheery happy smiles painted on their rag faces. Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy are very happy little creatures too, and they have had so much fun in their raggedy lives, they just can't help being joyous and kindly. Raggedy Andy always says, the reason Raggedy Ann is so lovable and kindly and generous and able to think so nicely is that she has a candy heart with the words, I love you, printed on it. But Raggedy Andy is just as kindly and cheery and generous as dear Raggedy Ann, and he has no candy heart. And maybe it is just as Raggedy Ann has often said to the other dolls in the nursery. If one just thinks nice, kindly things, if one just does generous, helpful deeds, then that person is filled with a thrill of happiness that shines right through even the shabbiest clothes and brings loving friends close by. And there they are. There are 2 main sections of this book. It's broken down into 2 parts. So the first part is the stories of adventures. They are longer stories. They are actually broken down into chapters. So we have the title page for each of the adventures. And then you'll see the number 1 up here, chapter 1, the title of the chapter. And then each chapter is only about 2, maybe 3 pages. And then towards the back of the book, the second part is short stories. Now, each of the short stories, they're only 2 or 3 pages per story, so there's a lot more of them than adventures. But I'm going to read you an adventure. It is called Raggedy Ann and Andy in the Snow White Castle. I think there's 4 chapters, I believe. Yes. Okay, so chapter 1 is called Prince Muggles. Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy were riding through the woods one day when they met a man named Muggles. Muggles had a bag full of magic charms that he had been using to play mean tricks on everyone around him. "Everything annoys me," said Muggles. "I wish I could find happiness, but I know it is too late." And much to the Raggedy's surprise, he began to cry. "Once you make up your mind to seek happiness, it's never too late," said Raggedy Ann as she wiped his tears. "Is that really true?" Mr. Muggles asked. "Yes, it is," the Raggedys answered. "Then show me how, and I will do anything you ask," Muggles promised. "All right," said Raggedy Ann. "First, throw away your magic charms, for you don't need them. You have more wonderful charms right in your heart." Raggedy Ann and Andy and Mr. Muggles. After Muggles threw his charms into the brook, Raggedy Ann wished for ice cream cones for all of them. When they finished eating them, Muggles told the Raggedys his sad story. "Somewhere in the woods," he began, "stands the beautiful white castle where my brother and I grew up. One day, an old woman came to the castle and offered to sell me a bag full of magic charms. I thought it would be wonderful to have all my wishes come true, so I bought them. At first, I had fun doing harmless magic tricks for all the people in the castle. But then I began to become jealous of my brother. You see," Muggles continued, "there was a beautiful princess who often visited the castle. She had a magical golden ring she used to wish for good things for everyone around her. I fell in love with her, but unfortunately, so did my brother. The princess and my brother were married, and when my father died, they became king and queen. I was filled with envy, which means jealousy, so I used the charms to work magic upon them." "What did you do, Mr. Muggles? I mean, Prince Muggles?" Raggedy Ann asked. "I wish that they would turn into an old man and an old woman and forget all about each other," Prince Muggles cried. "But I must have fallen asleep, for when I awoke I could not find the castle, and I never found out what happened." "I bet your magic worked against you," Raggedy Ann said. "Yes," said Prince Muggles, "and I will never be happy until I can undo all the wrong that I've done to the ones I love most. Maybe if we all look together, we can find the king and the queen and the Snow White Castle," said Raggedy Andy. And so they set out through the deep, deep woods. Here's the 3 of them. And then 2 of them. I hope you can see that all right. Chapter 2, The Kind Knight. They searched and they searched, but they couldn't find anything. Soon they came to a clearing where they sat down to think. All at once they were startled by a big, booming voice. "You'd better get out of here as quickly as you can." "Who said so?" Raggedy Andy asked. "I said so," said the voice, and out walked a knight dressed in armor. The knight waved his sword in the air, and Prince Muggles and the Raggedys ran behind the tree. The knight tried to run after them, but his armor was so awkward and heavy that he tripped and fell backwards. There he lay with his feet in the air, crying for mercy. Prince Muggles helped the knight sit up. Then Raggedy Andy unscrewed the knight's helmet and lifted it up from his head. "Mercy me," said the knight. "I do hope no one was hurt." Raggedy Andy picked up the knight's sword. It's made of rubber, he laughed. Of course it is, the knight replied. You see, a mean old witch has hired me to capture people who come by. But I never capture anyone, I just scare them off. Then why do you stay here? Raggedy Ann asked. Well, I used to work at a beautiful castle, but one day it just disappeared. So I came to work for the witch. What was the name of the castle? Asked Prince Muggles. The Snow White Castle, said the knight. Well, I am Prince Muggles, said the prince. Nonsense, cried the knight. Prince Muggles is a young man. And so Prince Muggles told the knight his sad story. Maybe I can help you find the Snow White Castle, said the knight. I think I know where there might be a secret passageway. Just follow me. Chapter 3, The Beautiful Castle. They all followed the knight through the woods until he came to the foot of a great tree. There, hidden under a clump of ferns, was a large stone slab. The knight lifted the stone like a door, and everyone went inside. They soon found themselves in the most beautiful place they had ever seen. All about them was a lovely lawn where birds and animals stood, frozen like statues. And in the distance, with its red roofs and turrets almost touching the clouds, was the beautiful Snow White Castle. When the Raggedys turned to Prince Muggles, they saw that he had become a young man, but he, too, stood still like a statue. Well, said the knight, it really was Prince Muggles after all. Yes, said Raggedy Ann, but why doesn't he move? I don't know, the knight replied. They all helped carry the prince to the castle. When they entered the throne room, they saw a handsome man and a beautiful woman sitting like statues upon their thrones. It is the king and the queen, said the knight. The knight placed Prince Muggles on a chair beside them. Although the Raggedys tried to awaken everyone, not a soul stirred. Now what shall we do? Raggedy Ann asked. We must search for the golden ring, said the knight. Oh, yes, said Raggedy Ann. Prince Muggles told us about the queen's magical ring. Maybe it's in the queen's pocket, suggested the knight. Raggedy Ann looked in the queen's pocket, and sure enough, there it was. I don't know if you guys can hear, but my cat Oscar is running back and forth right behind this computer. He's distracted me a little bit, I'm sorry. I shall make a wish, Raggedy Ann said. The room was very quiet. Then everyone began to stir, and soon they all came to a full awakening. Chapter 4, The Gift of the Golden Ring. See that? Chapter heading, chapter title. In bold letters, I should point out. The queen and the king and the prince all crowded about Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy. We shall never be able to thank you enough, said the queen, and we will make the brave knight a duke for helping us, the king declared. And, Raggedy Ann, you shall have my magical golden ring for your very own, the queen proclaimed. Thank you very much, Raggedy Ann said. I shall make a wish that upon every spot where we met with an adventure, a tree shall grow with hundreds of shining magical golden rings upon every limb. And when someone with a kindly heart comes along, all he has to do is shake the tree and a magical golden ring will fall down. This will all come true, Raggedy Andy said, for Raggedy Ann's wishes are kindly and generous and unselfish. That might be the ending. Nope, one more page, sorry. The queen was so happy that she planned the finest ball that anyone outside a fairy story had ever seen. The brave knight was now officially a duke, and he danced with all the lovely ladies of the court. And the king danced with Raggedy Ann. What a lovely time they all had. The Raggedys would have liked to stay longer with their friends at the Snow White Castle, but they knew it was time to return home. Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy kissed and hugged everyone goodbye and were soon on their way. "What have you done with the golden ring?" Raggedy Andy asked. "Just before we left, I slipped the ring back into the Queen's pocket," Raggedy Ann told him. "For with the wishing pebble I have inside me, we have enough good luck and magic. Now we have even more because we have shared it with people we love." See Raggedy Ann holding the golden ring at the top. The bottom picture, all of them together, dancing, having a good time. I hope you enjoyed that story. I want you to think about the amount of people that were in this story, the type of characters that they were. They went on an adventure, they wound up at a castle, and they all got what they wanted in the end. If that makes you think of maybe a story or definitely a movie you have seen, I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. What movie might that remind you of? Well, when I was reading it and looking at the pictures and seeing the castle and the walkway they were walking down, it kind of reminded me of The Wiz or The Wizard of Oz. So that's one of the things I want to challenge you with this read aloud. But I thought that could be something as a family. Maybe you guys could do at home. Watch one of those movies to go along with your fiction writing and your fairy tale read aloud this week, just for fun. So I want everyone to think and share with somebody in your house, someone you can call on the phone, or with your teacher, however you communicate with them, or your parents communicate with them, I should say. If you had one wish, what would your wish be? Or if you had the golden ring, what would you continuously, there were endless amount of wishes and things that could happen. What would you do if you owned a golden ring? Or if you were given magic beans, what magic tricks would you like to learn and be able to show off to your friends and family and others? What would you do with your magic beans? So that's your think and share for this read aloud. Of course, I'm always going to challenge you guys to push yourselves a little further. So I came up with 2 ideas of different activities you could do with this read aloud with this story. So the first one is just a writing prompt. One of the characters in the story that they didn't talk about at the end was the witch that had hired the knight after he couldn't find the castle to keep on working. So I would like for you to create an adventure of your own and tell your story from the point of view of the witch. If you were the witch, where would you go? What happened? Make up a story. Tell it as if you were her, about the adventure you went on and what happened to the witch. The other activity I thought of is comparing this story to The Wiz or The Wizard of Oz, whichever movie you've seen or if you've read the story about it. And to compare and contrast, we always use the same graphic organizer in 2nd grade. I know you guys know what it is when we talk about how things are the same and different. It's a certain type of diagram we use. A Venn diagram. Okay. I'll move it up closer in a minute. You'll see the 2 circles interlocking in the middle. On one side, I've put the title of the story we just read, Raggedy Ann and Andy in the Snow White Castle. And on the other side, I put the movie, in my case, that I would be comparing it to, which is The Wiz, or if you've seen The Wizard of Oz. Oh, I pulled that up too high, trying to get you guys to see it. So in the middle, we compare how the 2 things are alike. On the outside, we contrast them. How are they different? Same, different. So if you wanted to challenge yourself to do this activity, you could pause the screen real quick, go grab paper and a writing utensil, whatever you choose to write with, and you can copy this onto your paper. So that's not mandatory. Just some ideas for you guys to do at the end of the read aloud. I also wanted to share with one of my students specifically. He showed me he keeps all his work in one notebook, Ramir, and I told you that I do the same thing. So all the ideas and notes from distance learning and lessons and the phonics when we're done a activity and the writing samples, Ramir, I have it all in this notebook, all in one place too, just like you. So keep up the good work. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed it this week. I had a nice time reading to you. I hope you're able to complete at least one of the activities that go with it. And as always, feel free to share it with one of your teachers. Have a good week. Since Oscar the Grouch it seemed like he wanted to come to school so badly, he made a little appearance with his ears in the beginning of the read aloud and then was running back and forth. So here he is listening to the story. Not really at that time, but we'll pretend, okay? And here's Oscar the Grouch making another guest appearance. Another week when I was doing my work, he was, you could say, helping me. Mason, I hope your mom isn't watching. My Mason in my class. All right, boys and girls, I just thought I would end it with something cute, something funny. So just want to remind you, make sure after you're done this read aloud that you are watching the 3 lessons for this week. Reading from Mrs. Lynn, writing from me, Mrs. Clothier, and math from Miss Clapp. Watch them Monday, maybe Tuesday, complete the assignments, and then get ready for your live Zoom on Wednesday with your teacher, with your homeroom. We hope you enjoyed this story. Hope you participate in the activities that were included for you, and that you have a great week.